Hey, welcome back. So I have a brand new video for you today. So I went down the rabbit hole and I came back up with the Fuji x100V. So why do I need a new everyday carry camera, and why did I buy a 3-year-old camera, albeit it's a very hyped hipster camera? Let's find out. So let's start with a quick overview. This is not going to be a technical overview of the camera or the features. This is going to be from a point of view that I needed a new everyday carry camera. So let's take a quick overview of this camera. So the Fuji x100V was released back in 2020. So it's almost 3 years old at this point and is not really on par with other brands and the technology of 2023. So it's a very small and compact camera, and it's very discreet, and also I bought it in black. It has a 26 megapixel sensor in it. It's a crop sensor. It has a fixed lens on it, which is a 23 millimeter, which is a 35 millimeter equivalent. It has a flip out screen in the back, or a tilt screen actually. So it's essentially a very nice point and shoot camera. So why did I buy a new everyday carry camera, and why do I need one? So basically there's 4 reasons for it, and the first one is that I want to document my life more than I do. Number 2 reason is that I don't want to carry around a lot of gear. Number 3 is that I want to limit post-editing, so I don't want to sit around and edit my photos. And the 4th reason is that I want to limit my further investment into the ecosystem of the Fujifilm. Alright, so if we dig into number 1 reason is that I want to document my life more than I do. I normally use a Sony a7C and I have a lot of lenses for it, I have a lot of gear for it, and when I take it out for a spin, when I'm out doing street photography, it's actually quite a heavy setup, and actually sometimes I just want to minimize. I just want to have a camera that I can throw over the shoulder and just go out. I also want to use it for casual occasions when I'm with friends or doing family stuff, and this is why this camera is perfect for that. So the next reason that I talked about is gear. I want to minimize gear. With this camera, all gear discussion is more or less taken away. It has a fixed lens, which means that I don't need to think about if I want to bring a 24, 35, 55, 85, whatever I used to normally do with my Sony a7C, which is actually quite freeing. So basically it's a good all-rounder camera for casual occasions, but also for street photography. And reason number 3 is that I want to limit my post-editing. I don't want to spend a lot of time editing, and with this and with the Fuji systems you have the film simulation. And reason number 4 is that the further investment in this camera is also quite limited. I don't need to further invest in this camera in terms of filters and additional gear, because it is a fixed lens. It has everything I need. It has an ND filter, as I mentioned before. It has a tilt screen. So basically there's no need for me to further invest if I don't want to, even though I like Fuji as a camera brand, but there's no incentive, because like with my Sony a7C, I've invested a lot of money in the whole ecosystem, because I bought a lot of lenses that are compatible with the Sony system. This is really appealing to me because I can just use it as a point and shoot, and that's it. Let's talk about some of my favorite features of this camera. So I've had this camera for 3 weeks of the date of this recording. So basically some of my features are obviously that it's so small, it's so compact, it's very lightweight. I can actually put it in my jacket pocket if I want to. It's a little bit bulky, but I think the overall compactness, it's really appealing to me. It's just such a beautiful camera. It's a very sleek and discreet looking camera. It has those nice dials on top of it, and they have a very nice tactile experience to it. It reminds me of rangefinder cameras as well. So that's really a great thing. And the next thing is that this camera is very customizable. I can customize this camera to my liking, both in camera with settings and all the dials and the buttons that it offers. I can customize that as well. But also I can also customize the look of the camera. So basically I can pimp it to my liking. I will have more on that a bit later in the video. The next thing is that it has a 4-stop ND filter built in, which is really great, because then I don't need to carry around step-up rings or step-down rings and filters for everything. You can actually add a filter onto the lens here, and that way the camera will become completely weather sealed. That is the only thing that is a little bit funny with this camera, but nevertheless you have that option as well. And of course the next thing is a really big thing. It has film simulations, and most of the Fujifilm cameras, maybe it's all of them, they have film simulations, which means basically it replicates to a very good degree film stocks like film photography, and I already put in my favorite film stock simulations in here. And some of my favorite film simulations that the camera comes with are Classic Neg and Classic Chrome. Those are just out of the box really, really great, so a really big plus as well. Another feature is that there is a built-in flash in this camera, which is really nice and handy, especially if you're shooting somewhat in low light. Because this lens only has an f2, there might be sometimes be an issue if you're indoors and the lighting is poor. And also for myself, I really like the direct flash photography of the 90s look, so I think this is a really nice feature as well. For street photography, I think this tilt-out screen for me is really great, and this is not an option I've had before with my Sony a7C, which has a flip-out. So I think this is a welcome addition to my street photography. And last but not least, Fuji gives the option of lens conversion lenses. So basically they have two options right now. They have the wide angle and the little bit more tighter angle lens. So basically they offer 28mm lens conversion and they offer a 50mm lens conversion. So basically right there you have, with the 35 already on the camera, you have the holy trinity of street photography focal length. So you have the 28, 35 and 50mm, and you just have to put on the lens on top of this and then it will convert it. Personally, I do like 50mm street photography, and that is a welcome addition to my kit for this one. And that is the only investment that I talked about earlier that I would make maybe in a few months' time. But I want to really use this camera as it is right now. I'll just quickly mention some of the downsides of the camera. There are a few that are worth mentioning. First of all, the battery life of this camera is really, really poor. It's basically good for one session outside, and then you have to come home and make sure that the camera is charged and ready for the next session. But basically, I will be buying a few extra and spare batteries for this camera, especially if I don't have access to a charger when I'm out and about. And the next thing is that the lens is a f2, so which means that it's a wide aperture. But basically, I'm usually using lenses that are really, really fast, around 1.4, 1.8. And but again, for most people and for most occasion, f2 is more than enough. Some situations like low light, if you're indoors, that might be a problem. But again, you have the flash you can use. And the last thing is that ergonomics on this camera is really bad. I don't have big hands, but there's virtually no grip. So it's really, really hard to grab onto the camera. Especially in the beginning, I was really afraid of dropping it. That's why I bought this strap quite quickly, and just to have it around my neck so I don't drop it. And I added a thumb grip as well. I'll be talking about it a little bit later in the video as well. Alright, so let's talk about all the customization you can do with this camera, both in camera with the settings and also pimping the camera a little bit. And let's start out with the settings. There's a lot of buttons on this camera which I'm not really used to from my Sony a7C, so a lot of ways to customize my camera to my liking. And how I figured out what I like is just I went out with the camera and tried out different settings, you know, so I programmed the buttons on the top here to different features and functions, and just worked through what I liked and what I didn't like. And right now I have a good setup that I like, but again, I really have to get used to using this camera because it is so different from my Sony a7C, and you have a ton of features and settings you can customize exactly how you like, which is really cool. So let's talk about some of the customization you can do to the camera. So basically how you can pimp the camera. And the first thing that I bought is a leather strap, which is really cool. This is not my usual type of camera strap. Normally I love Peak Design and that whole ecosystem there. But for this camera that is so beautiful, you need something that does it justice. And I think this camera strap does that. The next thing that I pimped a little bit is that I have changed the soft release shutter button. You can customize it, and I put on the brass one here, as you can see. And I also bought a red one, and I can just switch it as I like. And another cool thing is that I added a thumb grip also on it. which is super practical. I didn't know that it will give me such a nice grip on the camera that it does. I can really hold the camera really secure like this, and this was absolutely worth the money. All of the items that I mentioned for the external customization is from Squarehood, and I think they're called squarehood.se. It's a Sweden-based company that makes gear for Fujifilm. The only thing that I'm missing right now is a filter that I will put on top, and this is also for practical reasons. I want to weather seal my camera, and you have to do that. The way this camera is built, you have to add a filter. It can be whatever filter. It can be UV filter, it can be a Cinebloom filter, Mist Pro filter, just to have it secure, because I intend to bring it everywhere with me, and I don't want to be concerned about it getting wet or getting dust inside of it and whatnot. So just to be on the safe side with this camera. What type of photography have I been doing with this camera so far? As I mentioned, I've only had it for 3 weeks, and I'm still learning and getting to know this camera. But I feel like it's more on the casual side, and it's more of spur of the moment. So if I see something interesting, if I have the camera on me, it's more that type of photography. But it doesn't mean that I cannot do street photography as I'm used to with my Sony a7C, but it's just different. And also I feel like it's a little bit hard to explain, but I feel like that when I pick up this camera, I have a different mindset. Maybe it's because I don't have that pressure on me to go out and come back with a banger or two, and I don't think about curating my content as I normally do, and think about like I want to spend a lot of time editing. I just take a photo and I put a film simulation on it, and if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I delete it. And I think that's very freeing for me also to get some of my creativity back and some of that informal type of photography that you do. So that's a bit different for me. So how did I set up my camera and what are my settings? So let's dig into it. So for this camera, I put it in aperture priority mode, and this works really well for me. Normally I shoot in manual mode, and for this camera I think this is ideal because I want it to use as a point and shoot, and also I want to have that option of handing it over to my friends or family members for them to take a photo with this camera and not think about settings all the time. And another thing that I've never tried before is that I put it in manual focus mode. So basically I focus with the lens here, and I put it in zone focusing, which is really ideal for street photography as I understand it. And I'm really eager to try it out more in practice, which is a little bit different than normal rangefinder cameras. So a really different way of setting up my camera. I set up the camera to shoot in both RAW and JPEG, and the reason why I did that is that because it's an option that I would like to have. If there is a photo that I want to edit differently than the film simulation that I put on the day, I will have that option, and mostly I will just use the JPEG and delete the RAW afterwards, but I still like to have the option. There's a tons of settings you can customize, but for me, these are the best for now. They might change maybe in 6 months' time or a year's time, but for now, I think I want to make my life easy when doing photography. Final thoughts on my new everyday carry camera, and overall I'm very happy about my $1,800 investment, which is the retail price here in Denmark. It's a great addition to my overall everyday carry kit. And also, as the points I mentioned before in the video, it's great for travel and local trips. It's great for casual settings with friends or birthdays with family members, and it's really great for street photography as well. So it's a very discreet and very versatile camera. Basically a little bit expensive point and shoot, but again, it makes photography fun again. The time I spend with it, I feel like it's the perfect companion for a busy person in a busy environment. So I cannot wait to use it more in the future. Take care, see you on the next one.